We are brought into this world and pass through it. And in the early years, we begin to get one major feeling about life. A feeling and a thought and an attitude that overwhelms all else. That feeling is that of helplessness. We come in here into this life and we associate with other people and with events, and everything seems so much stronger and wiser, more powerful, even domineering. And we look at ourselves and we see we have no power at all, no authority, no wisdom, and we attribute, incorrectly I might add, we attribute wisdom and power and right authority to other people. And we even welcome it in many wrong instances because we think that other people know more than we do. They have the answers to life. And much to our sorrow in later years, we find out that they didn't have the answers at all. They played the part of someone having the answers. And when we're young, small, because we know so little ourselves, we're so eager to look around and find someone who can guide us, help us, that we believe in people. And we get all sorts of strange ideas about where our salvation, our deliverance, and our strength is going to come from. But for the first many years of our lives, the dominating feeling is one of utter helplessness. We may not show it on the outside. We may bluff and we may pretend that we have it made, that we know what we're doing. But inwardly, we cry a lot. And we feel that we're at the mercy of everything out there. And this feeling of being at the mercy of life urges us to want to do something about it. And we always make the wrong move. We begin to feel incorrectly, think incorrectly, that if we're overpowered by other people out there, by events, by circumstances, by luck, as we call it, by fate, we feel that there is one thing we can do, which is the greatest mistake of our life. We feel that we can protect ourselves by hiding out. When we feel helpless, the phrase, how can I protect myself against the threat of the world? People tell me I must be successful, and I don't know what that means. People tell me I must behave in a certain moralistic fashion, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all, especially when I see my advisors doing the exact opposite. So we see the threats coming at us from north, east, southwest. And we start building a wall around ourselves, around our lives, hoping, thinking that they will protect us from that threat that is so ununderstandable. We don't understand what it's all about. We reason if we could even understand the enemy, maybe we could push it back, keep it away from hurting us. And it hurts us quite constantly. Has this been your experience in life? Of course it has. So we say, there's one thing I can do, which is to protect myself by putting up a brick wall around me. So if you'll just picture a man going out and he has his home, which is his self. He goes out and he gets lots of bricks and he gets cement. And he starts at one side of his property line and starts to build a brick wall. And he gets it up, a few bricks up. No sooner does he have them up, then he looks over his shoulder and someone is attacking him from the other side, so he races over there, puts up bricks over to the west, over to the east. The first few years of our life, in fact more than a few years, are spent in erecting a brick wall around ourselves. Wasn't there a point in your life when you got tired of being hurt by people? those parents came over to you and you were terrified just because you could read the expression on your father's face or your mother's attitude, and you shook inside. You see why people turn to building a wall around themselves? So here's this man working frantically for the first several years of his life, building this very thick and very high brick wall around him. And he stays inside it, and he says, at last I'm safe. Nobody's going to hurt me now. He's built up all these ideas that he has about religion, about where he's going in life, and he repeats phrases about how powerful he is in the world. And he hides behind this cluster of ideas as to how he's going to be safe for the rest of his life. But inwardly, it's quite a different situation, and he knows it. What he took as the right course for his protection has become his prison. There he is. And you'll understand what I mean on the next phrase. There he is, trapped by himself, living with himself, all his ideas, all his acquisitions, including all the ideas about how he's going to protect himself from a cruel world out there. So he has all these ideas, and he's inside the high, thick brick wall, and he is still scared. And I have described the life of practically every human being on earth. Now look how confused he is, how doubly hurt, how frustrated. He said, I took a normal, logical course in preventing people and events from hurting me, and it still happens. Now listen to what I'm going to say next. His pain becomes so bad, so severe, that an incredible thing happens to him. He begins to believe that his lack of protection is protection. He begins to call his pain pleasure. He begins to think that he's okay as long as he stays behind the walls, that he's at least in charge of his little kingdom there, and everything is all right. And he refuses to see the agony and the heartache and the anger that contradicts it. His words say one thing, I'm okay, and his feelings say the exact opposite. Now look the state he's in. Haven't I described everyone? Haven't I described you? Everything inside this circular wall, everything is the man's enemy. Everything inside is his enemy because it's all delusion. It's all make-believe. It's all a wrong move. Therefore, anything he does, any action he takes while living inside this psychological brick wall, any move he makes is going to be wrong. It can never be right. Everything is wrong inside there because everything's wrong with his thinking. He doesn't understand himself. He doesn't understand a woman that he's in relationship with. And so he has a sex problem. He has a relationship problem in a dozen ways with the world out there. And he doesn't understand it because he said, I'm safe, and yet I'm at the mercy of that woman. He's at the mercy of his wrong memory, which comes up and instructs him to do this or that, and the memory guides him wrong. This is what he's counting on, his memory to guide him right, but it always guides him wrong because he made it wrong in the first place. Here's the situation. Here is the situation of human beings. Having been hurt in younger years, not knowing how to handle it, we didn't have the intelligence, the wisdom to know how to reply to that sick world out there. We didn't know. We didn't understand. We thought that those people were helping us, and they weren't. They were hurting us. So we come back inside the wall and listen to what I'm going to say next and explain all. It will explain all human wars and all human crimes to you. Here's this man inside the wall. in his frustration and his anger and his violence, all carefully concealed from himself, of course, all pressed down, all this pressure inside of him. He doesn't know what to do with it. He thought he did, but now he's inside. He doesn't know what to do with it. Do you know that suffering is a great pressure? He has to find a release, doesn't it? And do you know what he does? And you'll see the illustration in this. That man inside there, not knowing what to do with himself, not which direction to turn in. You know what he does? This explains wars and crime and 1,000 other problems. He reaches down for a brick. He tosses it out over the wall, and the next door neighbor over that way, who is also in his wall, gets hit by it. The neighbor feels a rock on his head, and he said, who did that? He doesn't know. He's inside the wall. He doesn't understand any other human being. He's just as locked in as the other man. But he got hit on the head by an accidental rock thrown by a man with pressure. And what do you think he says? He says, even inside my protective wall, I get hurt. There must be evil people out there. He picks up the rock and he throws it over another direction, hits a third man. Third man picks it up, throws it to all the people inside their walls, all throwing rocks at each other insanely, not knowing what they're doing. Here's the man. He's got all this anger and violence in him, and he picks up the rock and he throws it and hits another man. That is what is called a lack of conscience, a lack of ordinary decency. What does he care? All he knows is this terrific force that must express itself, must explode like a volcano, and he picks up the rock and he throws it in any direction. And this is what he does all day long, and this is why he gets rocks on top of his head all day long. And he says to himself, I have to keep throwing those rocks. That's what they're doing to me, which, by the way, is a very childish statement. Why don't you try sometime not throwing a rock at someone else, a verbal rock, an emotional rock, a rock of a wrong facial expression. Why don't you try not throwing at them sometime and see the different thing that goes on inside of you? It'll put you through some disturbance, different kind of disturbance, because all this time you've been taking the energy and doing the wrong thing with it. Next time you're going to throw a rock, pause a little bit, and that will begin to give you a clue that you don't have to do that. On with the story. We've left the man inside the wall, frustrated, not knowing what to do. And the reason he doesn't know what to do, because as long as you're inside the wall all by yourself, you are in sheer ignorance of the way out. The way out, that even that doesn't occur to him as a possibility. How can he know the way out when he's in? If he was to hear someone say, you can get out of here, what does that mean to him? He wants to be there. That's what he chose, and that's where he feels safe. At the same time, he feels most unsafe. Now, if we left human beings in this condition that we've just left this man, it would indeed be a very hopeless situation. There'd be no hope for man if this is where we left it. But now you listen to me. There is an outside of the wall. There is space outside of every wall that a human being has built up outside of him. Shall I tell you what that space is? You won't understand it because you're inside walls, but I will explain it to you in words, and if you'll follow what we're going to cover later, you'll see it for yourself. Outside of the wall is something that is called God, something that is called eternity. Outside the wall is innocence, peace. Outside the wall is sanity. Outside the wall is light, freedom, everything that a human being way down deep yearns for and yet distorts. Now, up to this point, I've given you the two conditions. The state that man is in right now and the state that any one of you in this room or watching this film can attain if you do what it is necessary to do. And that will be explained to you too. Our man is inside the wall, suffering terribly, keeping it well hidden from himself and from other people, pretending that he's happy, because pretense must be inside the wall with that man. It's a false condition situation, therefore he must pretend that all is well, that he's doing exciting things. So here he is inside the wall. Every once in a while, a certain human being on earth, inside their own little self-made prison, will begin to hear something that is coming right through the wall. And what they're hearing is a voice, a message of reality, a spiritual message that is trying to get through that very thick and high wall and to try to tell the man the mistake he has made. And that voice is the voice of God indeed. And this voice is trying to penetrate the wall and get through to the man certain basic preliminary facts. And these facts at the very beginning consists of telling the man the condition, the actual state he's in, that you're unhappy, not happy as you pretend to be, in order for the man to set aside the imagination that tells him he's doing the right thing, because he isn't doing the wrong thing. If you're unhappy, you're doing the wrong thing. And this voice, after telling him that he's in a wrong condition, which can be changed completely, after it tells him that, it then goes on to a very interesting instruction, which is happening in this room and on this film right here now. What this voice is telling him is how to build a ladder. The voice says, now you're inside this wall, and it's quite possible for you to begin to learn how to build a ladder that you can set against the inside of the wall, climb up the ladder, and get out into the other world. For a long, long time, the man resists the message because, ladies and gentlemen, he is in love with his miserable state. He likes to get mad. He likes to resist truth. He likes to pretend that all is well. He calls his inside prison the open space. He calls his delusion reality. All right, that's the problem. It's coming right through, the message is coming right through what he has to do in order to build a ladder and get out. But he doesn't want to hear, so that's the first problem. He doesn't want to. If the pain gets too bad, then he'll begin to listen, and here's what he'll hear. The ladder consists of spiritual facts, of acquiring knowledge, of learning, for example, that you are indeed in a hopeless and helpless position as long as you stay inside there and refuse to investigate any alternative, any other possibilities. So the facts at the start to come to the man, and the idea occurs to him that these facts are indeed parts of the ladder, which he can put against the wall and climb over. And so for many, many more years after the message first starts penetrating his receptivity, for many, many years after that, he starts to acquire true knowledge, spiritual facts. And even that isn't easy, because for a long, long time they get mixed up with all his delusions and pretenses and falsehoods that he has collected and called truths. So real truths start to come in, principles, ideas, right ideas, start to come in. They get all mixed up with his, and for a long time he can't tell the difference between one and another. And this is where a teacher comes in. This is where a true book comes in, to help a student find out the difference between his old false ideas and true ideas. So for a long time he collects ideas, sifting them, sorting them, throwing out the junk, all those related to the lie that he has to be someone in this world, the lie that he's going to go somewhere, he can go somewhere on his own, he can't go anywhere. Now, again, after many more years, the man finally has enough facts together to build the ladder. So he puts it together, and he takes the ladder over, and he sets it against the inside of the wall, and for many, many years, he just stands at the base of it, afraid to climb. Anybody can collect knowledge and build the ladder. That's the start. If you're receptive, you can. But I want you to understand that there's a very critical point in your spiritual life, any of you here. Once you have built that ladder of facts, you're not out, and don't you dare let imagination tell you that you're now loving, that you're now kindly, that you're now healthy and can help other people become mentally healthy. See how easy it is to go into self-deception and pride and vanity and conceit when we get a little spiritual knowledge. We immediately twist it for our own wrong ego-serving purposes, which keeps us inside the wall and inside our own suffering. So a man has the ladder of knowledge, and for a long, long time, as he stands there at the base of it, he ponders the fact that he's not out yet. He says, here I've been reading all about open space, about reality, about freedom, about peace of mind, about living an actually competent life. I've been reading about it, and then a new intelligent thought comes to him, and he says, I've been reading about it, but I don't have it. See, that's intelligence, to see that he has all this knowledge, but no active life inside him that conforms to it. And very reluctantly, he puts his first step on the ladder and starts to climb. And then the second step. And every step doesn't come day by day, it comes month by month and year by year. And when he gets about halfway up, he puts both hands on it, and he looks longingly back, doesn't he? He looks back to all the things he's going to leave. For example, he's going to have to leave all his tears, all his bitterness, all his hostility, all his blaming other people that he found so handy when he was down there. He looks back and says, do I have to leave all? And the message comes through, you must leave all. And he takes a deep breath. And takes another step, another step, another step. You understand, I will repeat, that this is not an overnight process. This is a long, long, many, many years of starting from where we were to where you even get to the stage where you sense that you must act upon the knowledge that you have acquired. That you have to leave everything and everyone behind back there. No looking back and saying, I'm going to go back. So he climbs on and on up, on and on up. And he finally makes it to the top of the wall. Not yet. When you're on top of that wall, you're not out yet. You can still jump either way, can't you? Now comes the final crisis, and if you have read spiritual books, if you've studied yourself, you know how often the point is referred to in where you have to make the one final leap. Once and for all, make up your mind which you want. Your liberty, or go back to pseudo-liberty with all its pain, all its fantasies, and all its pretense. Very, very much its pretense. So now we have our man on top of the wall. And I'll ask you, from the very start of the talk tonight, where we saw the man as a small child, where he got hurt so badly, physically, mentally, emotionally, where he failed in school and didn't understand why he should fail and all the other children passed, and why all the other children seemed so more intelligent than he was. And then he grew up and he went out into the world, and he wanted so badly to make a lot of money, to have a right relationship with a woman. All these things went wrong. All his hopes and all his dreams crashed. And he went through all these other stages of building his protection, seeing that it was no protection at all. Shall I ask you here tonight, what stage are you at? Can you see where you are? Can you choose it tonight and see exactly where you are? If you can see where you are, I will guarantee you that with great sincerity and a great right yearning And I wish to no longer deceive yourself. You can not only get to the top of that ladder, but when you get to the top of that wall, and you catch your first glimpse of that real world, of that outside world, of the world where there are no problems at all, where there's no self to cause problems, it'll be no contest. You'll take the leap down. This is what is called entering eternity while you're still alive here on earth. And you must enter eternity while you're still here. You can do it, and you must do it. Where are you making a mistake in the journey from the time when you were a small child and started to get hurt by this world to the point where you could jump off the wall and should jump off into something so utterly different that the mind can't describe it? Where are you still resisting the voice? Where are you now inside the wall, dreaming that you're outside? If you get angry, you are inside. If you hate any other human being on earth, you are inside. See it. That's good for you to see it, not bad. This is honest, and it's for your sake. If you like to hurt other people in any way at all, if you like to cause trouble to them, you had better see where you are. Whose sake do you think we're talking about? For whose sake? For those of you listening, hearing here tonight. Don't you see we're talking about your life? We're talking about where you are. And we're talking about the beautiful, powerful news that says you can get out. Truth says so. Reality says so. God says you could lead an entirely different kind of life. And you can prove it for yourself.